Hardware warfare. Google has just unveiled its new Android smartphone, the Moto X. It's the first Motorola Mobility product developed completely under Google's guidance. This comes after Google bought the company for $12.5 billion just last year. It's an expensive gamble for Google, entering a market currently dominated by Samsung and Apple. So the question is there room in the market for the Moto X? Let's bring in our whole panel. We've got Bloomberg contributing editor Paul Kedrosky. We've got Nikhil. Kalghatgi, he's the principal at Software Capital, and we have our tech guru, Bloomberg Businessweek, Sam Grobart. I'm going to start with you, Sam, because you just happen to have one of these phones handy.
Behold,
what do you
there it is.
That's pretty cool.
Well,
it looks a little bit like an iPhone.
It looks a little bit like a smartphone.
Yeah.
Which was the idea.
Okay.
It's actually rather attractive. Nothing very offensive about it. It's got a very big
white,
screen.
right? That's a direct assault on Apple because they started in white.
They did. They have there's a black version, a white version, but most interestingly, Motorola is going to have a website called Moto Maker where you'll be able to customize the back and front and accent colors of the phone and have it shipped to you in about 4 days.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they're taking a page from Nike, which was doing this with sneakers. Car companies like Mini, which have endless combinations, they wanted to bring that to the smartphone. So at the end of August, when this phone goes on sale, which will cost about $199, you'll be able to also customize it, and that'll all be built down in Fort Worth, Texas.
They're going to actually be building these.
Assembling
these entirely in the United States?
They have 2,000 people in Fort Worth. They bought an old Nokia plant and refurbished it, and while the components are coming in from other parts of the country and internationally, it will all be assembled there, and the reason they did that was so that they could do that short turnaround time for those custom orders, which they think might make up the majority of the sales of this phone.
So Sam, you've had a little bit of a chance to play with it. What do you think?
Listen, you know what? I think it has some very nice features, and it's got good integration, obviously, with Google services. One would hope so, given that Google owns Motorola. It has some clever things. You know, you can twist the camera, and it turns on you can twist the phone and it activates the camera just by using a gesture. It has some other clever integrations of Google products and services. The problem is there have always been very promising smartphones that look very good at launch. The Palm Pre looked really nice.
We know what happened to that.
We know what happened to that.
Hewlett bought it, and we're still wondering what they did with it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the Lumia that Nokia came out with looked really good. You know, it's kind of still struggling in the marketplace. So the question is, can Motorola and Google break through with a product that seems to be pretty good?
It's a good question. Paul, it's important that they break through, is it not? What's at stake here?
Oh, it's hugely important that they break through. I mean, there's a bunch of sort of conflicting forces going on here, but fundamentally, you know, this is really about Google trying to say, you know, there's a whole ecosystem of people building products around Android, which is lovely for us, but what we really want is our own experience in front of customers, because we see the market going in some directions that, in the long run, probably favor, you know, Apple more than they should, and if we don't ship our own product here, we run the risk of falling back, because they look at sort of the customizations being done by Samsung, HTC, and others, and they want more control over the user experience. So these customizations are just part of it. At a deeper level, what's happening is, you know, Google really pushing the idea of low-cost sensors on these devices, so they're much more state-aware, so that it knows you're getting into your car, it knows you're in your house, it knows more about what you're doing, because the next battlefront on phones isn't really phones at all. It's the place you're inside. It's, does it know you're in your car, and how does it behave? Does it know you're in your house, and how does it behave? And that's really the next front of this particular war.
Paul, what would that look like? You know, the difference between in your home versus in your car. What would the phone do differently?
So at a trivial level, you see that already with, you know, you're talking on the phone and you get in your car and it flips the call over onto Bluetooth. That's been happening for a long time. But imagine instead that most of the information, you've been searching for information on Yelp, say, for example, on your smartphone, or in the case of Google, it would be Zagat's, of course, because Yelp is an anathema. But so you'd be searching for something, and that information would immediately pop up on your in-car display. You know, this is the direction things are going, where more and more of the information that's on your phone is transparent in terms of popping up on in whatever environment you're in, on whatever display is handy. That's really what Chromecast is about in the home. That's really what's happening inside of cars. And by taking this approach, Google is able to do this kind of engineering itself increasingly, start off with the trivial customizations and rapidly move towards making the device become more transparent as you change environments and move around.
Let's get over to Nikhil for a moment. So what could it potentially mean for Google?
So the most important piece that Google has to take care of is making sure that the developers are actually building applications on it that are exclusive to the Moto, that are exclusive to to Google and Android such that everyone in the world can have these connected device kind of experiences. So these connected device experiences are the ones you see in your car. They're when products like SmartThings goes in your home, and as you walk down your stairs, the lights go on, and it tells you when your kids go to sleep. That's going to be the big advantages that they have. And that's not just on the software side, that's also on the hardware side. So by creating this enormous group of developer community, they can actually have personalized hardware that our colleague just spoke about. They can also have personalized and customized hardware for business and enterprise applications.
And the whole idea is that then you get the ad revenue attached?
That's always been Google's grand strategy. Get more people on the mobile internet, searching on the mobile internet, searching through Google, and sell ads against that. The problem has been that most of the money in mobile has been made in hardware. So Google has been doing this sort of bank shot. It's like, well, we'll make Android and that'll get more people online, and eventually the money will come back to us. But meanwhile, Samsung and Apple have been
think about it,
running
85% of their revenues are coming from advertising. They're basically a media company. Google's a media company. So, I mean, you could argue this actually makes all the sense in the world because it's a whole new business.
Well, and you say 85% of their revenues come from media and advertising. 98% of all profits in the smartphone space are Apple's or Samsung's. Everyone
so huge
else,
opportunity.
Everyone else is competing for the other 2%.
Yeah, and I think this idea that, you know, all the value in the early days of the phone business came from hardware is very much analogous to the early days of the hardware industry. In the first decade of the PC industry, all the value was created in hardware. In the next 10 years, you know, virtually zero. And I think you'll see the exact same phenomenon play out on phones. You know, this is just an artifact of being early days. From now on, all the value in this business is in layered services and layered software, and the hardware will rapidly recede to be a, you know, an afterthought and a commodity.